everybody. Welcome, welcome. We are just going to hop in here now in a minute. Good to see you all. Welcome back to this latest webinar, an episode of Unlocking Service Growth with Greg Hain and yours truly, Ryan Groth. And man, it's been a while, Greg, since we've done one of these. Too long, I'd say.
Yeah, and that's probably more on me than it has been on you because of my schedule and distractions.
Yeah. Well, you're doing great things out there with peer groups and, running meetings and helping companies grow. So, and seeing family, of course. So
yeah,
great to have you on here. As you guys are hopping on, we're going to jump right in just a moment. Just want to give everybody a chance to log in. But yeah, this is the Unlocking Service Growth podcast and webinar series where Greg Hain, who is an expert in service growth and working with, CEOs in the industry. He works with the best in the industry, and he's helped dozens and probably into the hundreds of companies, especially at his seminars, but works with dozens. And a couple of years ago, Greg and I were like, man, we should do something together and focus on service and how we can, just help companies grow service and interview our relationships and our clients and our friends in the industry who are doing a great job, and just extract and have discussions around best practices so that the industry can level up. And so we started this podcast a couple of years ago called Unlocking Service Growth. And now we have a new guest today that we're excited to feature. But Greg, just want to welcome you and glad you can hop on with me today.
Thanks, Ryan. And to add what you said, the thing that I think both Ryan and I think makes Unlocking Service Growth a good fit is that Ryan's, major emphasis has always been in sales, and mine has been more on the operational side. And he understands that you got to have the operational pieces in place, and I understand that you have to have the sales pieces in place, which most of you don't have. So it's a point of emphasis about that. But we have a very unique and special guest today. Kyra Coker is Vice President of Service and CFO for National Roofing Partners. And Kyra, I'm going to let you describe NRP as you see fit, and then we will start pummeling you with questions.
Sure. So NRP is a single source resource for regional and national clients that place a value on being able to have that single source and looking for somebody who can keep them dry and take care of their facilities, and that one button, one person to call. So that's what we are, and that's what we provide. And we try to do it by providing unparalleled service nationwide. That's kind of our tagline, if you will.
So in other words, you can go to the Walmarts, the Home Depots, all of those gigantic companies that have these national footprints, and you can say to them, you call us and we can fix any leak that you have. Correct?
That's right.
And they want that, don't they?
Yeah, they want to be able to have a partner in finding solutions where they don't have to reach out on a local level and try to vet out roofing partners. So where we come in is we, try to keep a network that's very much your tier one roofing partners that are reliable and provide good service and are that very dependable person that we know if we send them out with one of our regional or national clients, they are going to perform at the highest level. And so that's what we're looking for. And that's what our clients are looking for. And when I say value, that's typically the key is they're looking for value. It's not always necessarily the low price, right? It's who's going to make sure that I'm dry, who's going to make sure that I am a priority, no matter where my location is.
I think that your point about not always the low price is important. And we share a common example on that with a client who can remain nameless. But as many people that are listening know, I used to be a roof consultant, and I had a client. And when I retired from that business, NRP picked it up. And I know that that client's roof expenses went up as a result of utilizing your services, and they were delighted because of that. And so one of the messages I think is important for all of you listening in to understand is, if you do a great job with service, they really don't care what the price is. So, Kylie, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, to your point, and when you're dealing with regional and national clients as well, one of the big asks is get on my roof, tell me everything that's wrong with it and try to fix it, right? They want to see proposals. They want to see NTE increases, because that means that you're taking care of them. So they're not going to get a call again the next time it rains. And they don't have the luxury of your local business of being able to get up and see what's going on. And so we're really the eyes and ears. That's why things like pictures are really important, because just like when you were doing consulting, you're giving that picture of what that roof looks like. So.
Okay. So because you work for national clients that are professional property managers, they have standards, and these standards are often higher than your typical run-of-the-mill business. What kind of challenges does that present for you?
Oh, where do I begin? Here's the thing with with regional and national clients, they have IVR, which is a voice response system. They want to make sure that you have a signature from the on-site contact. They want to know exactly when you're going to be there. They want to know when you've left. They want to see detailed pictures of before and after. But they also, because they have so many locations and so much spend and they're professional buyers, they call BS when something doesn't look quite right. They know what they're looking for. They look at invoices all day long. So they don't want to see lump sum. They want to see it broken out, exactly how many hours, how many texts, how many miles, what you used, and what material markup you're using even. So it's not a simple process by any means, but it can be very valuable.
Say more about our good friend, the IVR. For the people, we're going to assume there's people that don't really understand what that is and the impact it has on a roofing contractor.
Yeah, so IVR is essentially a voice response system. And for the most part, depending on the client, that can either be done within an app on your phone, or it has to be actually done through a phone call. And those phone calls in the app actually log your exact location that you're calling from, or the exact location that you're logging in from the system, which means if you say you've been out there 3.25 hours and that's what you invoice, it has to match that voice response system of the time you arrived on site and the time you're leaving the site. And it's gotten a lot more sophisticated over the last, I would say, 3 or 4 years from where it used to be. And so, yeah, it's not a simple, I worked 5 hours. You're going to have to be able to actually show in using that voice response system that you were indeed on the site.
So this sounds like a different level of sophistication that's going to be required of the people out in the field. Does that present problems for you?
Well, yeah, of course. And even more so. So, take us out of the equation. It really creates some heartache for our partners, because their techs are used to a certain process for their local clientele. And to train them is, hey, yeah, it's hard for us, but it's even harder for our partners, because they have to train their crews to do NRP work typically a little different than they do their normal work. And so for us, we're training the same thing with every partner. So I would say it's difficult, but it's not nearly as difficult as it is to train crews on the different processes.
Oh, so what kind of demands do you see coming from knowledgeable building managers that are challenging for you to have to deal with? But when you understand why they want it, it's not just being whimsical about it. There's reasons they want these things. What kind of things, the unusual things? I mean, everybody needs pictures. Everyone needs some sort of a drawing showing where the repair was made so we know we're on the right roof and so forth. What beyond that, what sorts of requests do you sometimes get?
I'll say that if I had to say one of our most unusual and difficult requests that I understand from both sides, but it is very difficult, is we have one client that actually requires you to give a window of when you're going to be there. And if your technician doesn't show up within that window, they will turn them away. And why that's a little, I'll say, peculiar and outside of what we've seen in the past is typically your clients want you to get there as quickly as possible, right? If you tell me it's going to be between 8 and noon tomorrow, but you can get there today, fantastic. But we have one particular national client because of the security and things like that, that they actually require a 4-hour window and you can't come earlier or you'll get turned away. And that has been a really difficult learning curve for us and our partners because for so long and for so many clients, it is just get there as soon as possible. We don't want you to be past the deadline, but if you get there early, that's usually a good thing. So I would say that's probably one of our most unique outside of all the other little, special things that you have per client. But that one has been exceptionally challenging.
And as a roof consultant, I had to deal with them too. I know exactly what you're talking about. Okay, so you have this additional overhead of bureaucratic fiddling that you have to do.
Right.
How do you look at that?
Well, we try to remain, we have 4 core values at NRP, which we hold really dear because our entire organization came together with leadership to create them. But one of those is client focused. The other one's results driven. And then we do it by being humble and being passionate. The client focused and results driven are what drives everything we do. And so the reason why I say that is not to be like a sales pitch or anything, because none of our clients are on this call, but we try to be amenable, right? Without pushing the envelope too much for our partners. We try to be amenable to our clients because if there's an ask they have, there's usually a reason, right? There's something that as a professional buyer they've had to deal with or relationships that they've had. They are looking for somebody to come in and put them first and be focused on how you deliver for them. So
Ryan, I'm wondering if you have any questions because I could keep going like this.
Yeah, no, this is great. I mean, if for those of you just paying attention, I mean, who are paying attention to NRP and Kyra, they have a different setup than a local contractor, and so what they are doing is going after national accounts, different buyers, and they have to trust their partner network to be able to essentially satisfy their customer, who's a more difficult customer than somebody who doesn't know much about roofing or doesn't make roofing decisions regularly. But let's just take a step back. I've gotten to know NRP for years. I mean, I've been in this industry since 2013, and it's almost a decade now that I've seen and gotten to know the landscape of roofing companies on the commercial industry on a national level. And you guys have really gone through a transformation over the last couple of years. And so I think what you guys have gone through and overcome, rather, is the correct word. Everybody here can benefit from and listen and gather value from. So I think what I'll notice is that I'll point out that your leadership has changed, your senior leadership team, and then you guys have seen growth. So I'm curious, to you, from your perspective and for our listeners, what's been the growth? To give us round numbers of, plus or minus, what kind of growth you've experienced dating back to as many years as you feel comfortable. And then what do you attribute that growth to for the listeners who can, kind of lean into what NRP has done to grow so much?
Yeah, absolutely. So we did go through a leadership change a few years ago and really invested in the sales force of our organization. Daryl Kratzer took over as president, and he's almost a sales genius, right? He comes in and he comes from that background, but he really gets and understands the need for being focused on sales, because without sales in the funnel, right? I come from finance. Without sales in the funnel, without people filling that funnel, you're just going to continue to stay stagnant. And so he came in and really drove the need to hire salespeople. And so we hired a new sales force and have went in, and miraculously, you've seen the impact that's had. Tony Rader's our executive vice president of sales, and he specifically has really worked with the sales team along with Daryl, and Ryan actually is our with sales transformation. Their group has really helped train the team and worked with them on what's the ideal client, right? Who are we chasing? And what are we doing? And making sure we're chasing the right business, and making sure that, again, we're filling that funnel with what we need to. And we have experienced, I kind of take 2020 out of the equation, although we did actually experience a very good year in 2020 considering. But since 2019, we've had about 40% growth in our business, which I completely contribute to Daryl and Tony's bringing in a sales team and Ryan working with them. And then, for those of you that know Greg has worked with our service team and with our team and with a lot of our partners, and just really making sure that everyone's rowing in the right direction. Everyone's speaking from the same hymnal. Everyone's looking at the same end goal. And so I think that the success is all of those things rolled into one. I don't think you could have any of them without the other and see the success that we have.
I love, I just love Daryl and Tony and you guys running, NRP. The type of leadership you guys, everything starts there, right? So you look at anybody who's listening, service organization, sales organization, no matter what, you name it, it's the leadership that attracts and retains. And I remember talking with your organization earlier on a couple of years ago, and I remember just the process of purging people out who were not a cultural fit. And you guys have those 4 core values. And I've seen, your marketing's amazing, but you show those your icons of these core values, and one of them is passionate, and it has a little guy with like flames behind him. And I just love how every single person wants to be passionate and they want to feel connected to what they're doing. But you guys have been so selective on who you want representing you. You have not seen a lot of turnover in the sales force you brought on since really having Daryl and Tony and you combing through and picking the right people. So I think that that's really cool to see just how much you protected the culture you are creating and like not letting anybody in who's not going to help you. So I just wanted to, just honor you guys for what you've done. And it's been really fun to watch, but kind of going back into just one more point and question. You're leveling up your game, or you have leveled up your game to meet the demands of national client base. And then you have partners who have to make you look good and do what you said you're going to do, or else it doesn't work. So now your partners' game is leveled up to meet the unique demands of NRP. I mean, you guys are dealing with professional buyers. And if I'm a local roofer, I may say NRP is a professional buyer to me, and they're pushing me hard. But at the same time, what they're doing is leveling up. And there is some maybe frustration, I'm sure that everybody feels. However, let's look at the upside. So let's say I'm a local roofer, in California, and I usually work within a couple of counties, and I'm doing 20 million, 10 million, and everybody knows me in my local area, and I want to be better. But I just partnered with NRP, who deals with Home Depot and Walmart, and they won the job, and I'm doing that work. My question is, if a local contractor who's maybe even listening or is considering plugging into a national network, like you, like NRP, what is the upside that they do get, and that may make some of the demands feel a little bit easier to swallow and work through with their local business. For example, what has there been any contractors who've grown their business or had any upside as a result of, hey, I did the Walmart down the street, which is a big national brand. Curious how that might look for, somebody who's not a partner of NRP or somebody like that.
I mean, I think there are a few benefits. One is it should be kind of viewed as what we call ancillary business, right? So you have our local partners, you have your core business that you get, an NRP or any national network that you would be a part of provides an opportunity to have business that you wouldn't necessarily be able to get otherwise, right?
Yeah.
Because they are trying to get more single source access. It just provides an opportunity to have business that you wouldn't have a chance at. And that's twofold, right? So one is we noticed and talked to a few of our partners that during COVID, it really showed them what that ancillary business looked like because the national footprint was still running strong, right? The retail of the world that was servicing, on the national basis locally still needed someone to service their roof. And so I'm not gonna say we were going super strong, but we were fairly steady compared to some of the local business that they were coming across. And so that was a benefit. And then it also is a benefit to be able to use that when you're, kind of newer into the roofing industry or trying to kind of expand your client base, to be able to say that you work on some of these larger national clients is a benefit, right? To be able to say, well, you can trust me because I work on some of these, larger companies that everybody knows of. We all know of the big name companies, and it just adds a little bit of reputable if you're looking for that. And, if you're not, then at least it provides some ancillary business. And I would like to point out that through growth, and I'm sure everyone here knows that, but there is a lot of growing pains that, you go through. You hire a brand new sales force and you grow really quickly. We have had to do a lot of right person, right seat, making sure, like you mentioned, that we have the right people because your processes get stressed to the limit when you're growing quickly and you're, trying to satisfy your client base and take care of your partners. You find that you have a lot of areas you can improve on. And so that's what we're constantly, today working on is how can we be better? How can we turn things around faster? How can we be a better client to our partners? And how do we help our clients? Anyway, so there is not roses and sunshine. There have been a lot of growing pains in finding the right people, which we're still working on. So,
if I can jump in here, unlocking service growth is first and foremost about helping contractors grow. And so, Kyra, in your experience working with lots of contractors,
yes,
what sorts of things do you see them not getting? What sorts of things are they demonstrating that they don't understand from a service perspective that they need to, as an industry, improve on in order to be more effective, not only in serving somebody like you, but serving their own clients?
I will say that the partners that we see that do proposals and do on-site increases are what we're looking for. And there actually aren't a lot. When we look at the average per invoice, we're always trying to balance making sure that the client is happy and they're not being charged too much. But like I mentioned earlier, our national and regional clients, and my guess is your local clients too, really want to know what's going on with their roof. And don't just get up there and do a quick fix a leak. Everybody wants that, and that's important. But give that partnership and that holistic approach of looking at, your customers' assets and telling them before they're telling you what's wrong. I think that the more you see that and the more you do that with both NRP and your local clients, I think you'll start to see a better relationship. You'll start to see a better return on sending people out to site because you're maximizing, the revenue that's coming in. And I have seen that when I look at my average work order price, the higher the average work order price, the more satisfied my partners typically are, right? They're usually more eager to work with NRP and understand that they've got to use the IVR and that they've got to use the processes and the before and after photos because they get it. They get what these people are looking for, and they get that they're trying to provide this solution. And so I think if I had any advice from what I've seen in working with everyone is don't just go out there and do a $300 quick repair. It's not serving you, and it's usually not serving the client.
That's a great answer. There's a bunch of people that are listening in this webinar, and for those of you that are listening, if you have questions, please start. Do we want them in the chat box, or do we want them in the Q&A box, or don't we care, Ryan?
I don't care. They come through. The Q&A would probably be an easier place for them to ask. And forgive us, we forgot to give you permission to ask questions at the beginning of this, but we won't be unmuting anybody. So if you could just take a moment to write down your question there, that would be awesome. So yeah, we have some questions, and if we don't answer them, it's because we may want you to ask a better question. Just kidding.
So we and some questions are starting to pop in. So Kyra, what kind of margins can a contractor make working with NRP?
So I've heard a wide variation, and a lot of it has to do with how you present your business. I've heard anything as low as 20% up to 60%. So it really depends on your business and what the rates are in your area, and what clients you're serving and how much you're doing in terms of proposals and things like that. I will say that something that we do is if you have any questions about that or want some ideas on how to improve it, our accounting and service team will be happy to get on a webinar and give you some tips and tricks and places we see where you can increase your margins. So.
And the other thing that happens when you work with national accounts is that sometimes they put constraints on you. And so when you go out and fix a leak repair, you may not make as much as you normally do, but if you're doing that inspection where you can give them a fixed price to do some additional work, that also gives you an opportunity to bump the margins.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We have another question, which not a surprise to see appearing here, but what's the process for joining NRP?
So we have a partner relationship manager whose full-time job is actually talking to partners and vetting them out. And so we would just put you in contact with them. There's actually a form on our website that you can fill out to join as a partner of NRP. And then she goes through kind of the process of making sure that you have the proper insurance, and we look at EMR ratings to kind of see what your safety record is and things like that. And then gives you kind of the full packet of information. There's no cost to join NRP or anything like that. It's just really making sure that you have all the credentials and that you understand kind of the process. And we'll go through phone calls with different various people just to make sure that you want to get involved. And then we can start sending you work orders. So
and
Nathan, put a link on the web, put a link in the chat for people, if you would, please, for NRP. Ryan, I stepped on you. Go ahead.
No problem. So not only this is not meant to be a sales pitch for NRP by any means. We want you guys to feel value because hopefully if you're asking questions. But my point I wanted to add is that NRP has a really great network of tier 1 contractors. So we have, I think NRP has some companies that are doing over 100 million in annual revenue in commercial roofing in their area, is low as whatever the minimum is to be in. And so with that said, they have leader summits and networking, and just there's some great best practice sharing, and then there's also some affinity type programs too. So like special deals or some kind of, partnership arrangement to help you grow your business. And I'd say that it's the most professional group of commercial roofing companies by far in the industry that gather, annually and throughout the year and network together because, there's a lot of it. There's a lot of cool value. It's like, it's not just like, hey, I have like one GC client who feeds me some work at a lower margin and it's ancillary. There's more than that, I think, with this. There's a network, there's best practice sharing, there's growth outside of just, sending work orders too. So I think there's a lot of impact on joining a network like an NRP, but NRP specifically is awesome.
To your point, Ryan, we did have NRP was originally founded, and the core focus, which we've tried very hard not to lose track of, is getting together and being able to have a network to share business practices with non-competing parties. And so absolutely, that's always at the forefront of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, super good.
So here's an interesting question, Kyra. Now, I'm expecting you're going to be diplomatic with this, but I will weigh in with something a little less diplomatic if needed. So, what determines what contractor you choose if NRP has multiple contractors in one area?
Oh, it really depends, right? So we have our shareholder partners who are longtime, actual owners of NRP. And so we do our very best for them to get priority. But after that, it really is looking at who is the best partner to perform in that area, meaning someone that it was be both beneficial for them and beneficial for the client. So we try to get whoever's closest and whoever provides quality service to the clients. And that's kind of our, again, not trying to be politically correct, just whoever will give the absolute best service and also make sense for them. So we try not to send people from really far away or not make it worth their while. So
let's be clear. If you are just starting to work for NRP, you're not going to be their first choice. You're going to be their last choice. But if you're given an opportunity and you do a really good job, you're going to get their attention and you're going to move up the ladder on the preference scale. Right, Kyra?
Just like any business, absolutely.
So, it's really cool just to hear the basic fundamentals reinforced from like a different angle. But look, like if you're on time, you have a dedicated account manager, account executive on the account. They're listening. They ask good questions. They're consistent, right? They show up. They communicate well, and they
use the IVR.
Yeah,
use that. You're another one you're doing is you're able to, because you have a well-run business, and if you know your backlog and you know how far out you are, you know your capacity, and you have an owner who wants to grow. They're going to be able to say, hey, we've attributed resources to this, and you guys are going to see that just like any other really good client, right? When somebody reacts, they're slow to react. Maybe they're not proactive. They're not very detailed. And then they don't do great work, or there's just a lot of, it's unpredictable. You can't communicate start times and when you're going to get going or not. It's a big deal. So it's just like any other client, but I'm sure you're going to work with the ones who are tech savvy and are great communicators and who communicate well and who are compliant, but also engaged and know their capacity, how much what they're growing. It's just natural connection. So
and our clients are fully aware of how NRP operates, right? We're transparent. So they know we use a partnership network and they know kind of how that process works. And there are times where our clients will reach out and say, can you please use such and such partner in this area, because they have been doing a fantastic job on our NRP work orders, right? And so we will see that occasionally too, where even our clients are taking notice to how responsive and how results driven the partner is. And so that will help dictate as well.
For sure. Great. We have a couple more questions, or any of these ones that you want to bring up to Kyra?
Yeah. So there's a question here that says, if you found extra work on a reactive lead call, and by the way, almost always you can if you look, but does NRP present the data to the customer from the inspection? So in other words, if you send a roofer out there, he finds stuff, does the roofer, or do you present to the customer, Kyra?
We do, and we appreciate the quicker the better, right? Because while it's fresh in their mind that you were just out there on a lead call, is the best time to try to get it. So the quicker we can get proposals in, and I encourage you to do that in your service business. The quicker you can turn around those proposals, the more likely they are to get approved.
Would you mind sharing in round numbers what your closing ratio is on that?
Yeah, so our closing ratio on on-site increases is greater than 80% typically, and our closing ratio for proposals is usually over 60%.
So for those of you that are listening, those are phenomenal numbers. Mm-hmm. And there's a perception in our industry that price drives service, and it really doesn't. And this is, and for those of you that turn in proposals and you have closing ratios of 20% or less, you're doing something wrong. And typically there's one of two things you're doing wrong. Either you're giving them a $35,000 upcharge on a roof that only leaked once in the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. And so the scope of work is massively overspecified. Or number two, you're bidding, not selling. There is a difference between loading up a quote and shooting it off to someone, which is bidding, and then building a relationship with these companies and having real salespeople involved in the process. Those two things make a difference. Kyra, do you want to embellish that any?
No, you're absolutely correct. And I think the more information, the better, right? So instead of sending a proposal that just says fix leaks or identified 7 leaks, repair or something like that, if you can attach photos or anything that just gives a little bit more insight into it, it helps with that approval. And we have a couple of partners that really get that. And so I know they're doing it in their local business, but to Greg's point, it is a sell, right? It's a balance between making sure you're taking care of your client, whoever your client is, and also selling it, right? You're selling them on keeping them dry, so it's serving them a purpose, but also it is a sell.
Terrific.
So
go ahead, Ryan.
I have a question, so forgive me, but so what you're saying is whether a local contractor is working with you or not, like they need to be looking at not just I fixed the leak, but how I can keep you dry proactively. Because if I'm hearing you correctly, maybe push back if I'm not, the local contractor who's doing the local inspection on the building that you're wanting to give a proposal for, you're kind of relying on what they're seeing as well as part of your specification or your scope with your client. And so like the best practice is whether you're working with NRP or not, and their numbers as the one who's on the front end of that customer should give you a lot of excitement. You got to find a way to increase the scope of work in response. Like if you look at it almost like a leak is a lead versus a sale, then you're like, oh, that leak is a lead. The sale happens after I get on there to immediately fix the leak. But what happens to proactively prevent the future leaks is where the sale is made. And so that's pretty powerful, for everybody who's listening to have a process, to do that.
So think about when we all, and everyone I'm sure has done this, went to go get your oil changed. You're taking care of a necessary thing. You're getting your oil changed. You've got an issue, and they come out and say, hey, we got your oil changed. While we're in there, just so you know, your tire pressure is low and you could use a new filter. And by the way, you may not want to do this right now, but in the next 30,000 miles or 3,000 miles, you're probably going to want to, rotate your tires or whatever that looks like, right? So it's kind of the same thing when you're on the roof is, hey, we fixed your leak. You're going to be dry, but I'm letting you know that you probably want to fix A, B, C, and D because it's going to leak again really soon. And so although you don't have to do it today, I really want to take care of you. So if we do this in the future as quickly as possible, then you're not going to have to pay me another call to come out 4 times to fix 4 different leaks. Instead, I'm going to give you a holistic relationship approach and take care of you, right? And it's the same type. I'm already there, and while I'm there, I notice this is wrong.
So a lot of the questions we've been getting have been about how NRP functions and how a contractor can build a relationship with NRP, which is fine. But I would like to suggest to you contractors that you're missing an opportunity here, because one of the things it can help you with is how to get better at service. Because many of you are sitting there all excited about the fact that you might be able to put a roof on a Walmart, but before you get to that stage, you're going to have to demonstrate some capabilities that many of you don't yet have. Mm-hmm. So please rely on her. Ask them, if you would please ask some questions. And one's come in here. Is there a recommended technology platform that you're seeing being used to document photos and service proposals? And Kyra, you can weigh in on that, and then Ryan or I can provide some suggestions for others that we might know of.
I think for each business, the software that you use is probably whatever works best for your business. There's a ton of different ones out there. I'm sure you're familiar with, Dataforma and FCS and Java and things like that. NRP is always looking to make sure that we're ahead on technology and looking to make improvements there. And so I'll say stay on the lookout for any new software advances that we have. But we're always looking for ways to make that easier for our side and for your side.
Yeah, there's in alphabetical order. There's Dataforma, there's FCS, which is now Java. There's RoofLogic, that are the big 3 that have been around forever. There's also CenterPoint Connect, which is an FCS clone. And there are there's OSB, which is starting to make an appearance, which is a really, really interesting, actually many of these are really interesting what they're doing. But each contractor needs to make some value judgments about which of these will work best for them, because they all are different, even though they all kind of do the same thing.
And not to put anything on Greg's plate, but I think Greg is also great at helping with things like that because you have a lot of experience with the softwares and with the service side too.
Yeah, and to speak about that just for a little bit, the problem is not the software. The problem is the implementation of the software. This is not like buying a screw gun to give to your roofer in the field. This is like buying an airplane that you don't know how to fly. And geez, do we need an HSI or do we just need a DG? Do we need an ADF at all? How many radios do we need to put in here? Do they need to be WAF compatible or not? And if you're not a pilot, you have no idea what I'm talking about. And that is the challenge that your people are going to have when they start using this. I currently have a user account with one of these software packages systems, and I'm learning to use it, and it works great. It's not easy to learn. It's not hard to learn, but it's different. In addition, I know contractors that started with one of those, let's call brand A, and they converted to brand B, and they went back to brand A. But I know others that started in brand B that tried to make the shift to brand A, and they went back to brand B. And what they discovered was these operated so differently that the people could not adapt. And I don't think the problem was an adaptation problem. I think it was an implementation and training problem. So as an owner, if you're going to consider any of these, you need to demo it. And that doesn't mean you demo it. That means you give the app to the guy in the field and have him go document repairs with it. You have your service people schedule with it. It's work to do that. And you should assume that from the time you start to you're up and running, it could be a year. This is not something that happens fast. All of this stuff is sophisticated. And now I'm on my soapbox, okay? There's another topic I want to address, if I may, and that all of you right now are looking for one-stop shopping. We want a piece of software that we get this one piece of software and it does everything. And the reason you want that is because stuff doesn't talk. But it's a little superficial, because the reality is your accounting software, if it's one of the larger ones, already has a service app. It won't work for you. Okay? And so you go do that. And in our industry, the edge is kind of the gold standard for estimating. And so what happens is, even if we gave you a package today that would do all of the software, it's click compatible with your accounting software that you're estimating, it's exactly what you need. It's only a question of about 2 years before somebody walks in your office and says, hey, have you seen this? And it's super, and your stuff won't do it. And pretty soon, 3 years later, you have 7 packages again. So understand this complexity issue with getting software to talk it's not going to go away. Don't try to make it go away. Train your people and develop better processes to use what you have. And now I'll get off my soapbox.
Growth is tough.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just be honest. If we don't want to grow, it's not going to be as hard. But you know, that comes with consequences, right? Things get more expensive. Your overhead costs increase. You know, you start to get stagnant, and all of a sudden you're panicking. You know, so there are some realities here that growing a business is tough. Growing a service business is tough, and implementing technology is tough, and managing and training and growing salespeople is tough. I mean, it is tough. So I think, you know, what I love what you said earlier, Kyra, is not all roses and unicorns. I mean, there are challenges every day, and the more you want to grow, the more you add in, the more complicated things get, the more challenging it gets. But you know, you're sharing how you can avoid some of those pitfalls, and I think that's really, really, really good. So we have some people that hopefully they're interested in, you know, working with you guys, because that would help their business. But they got to become good. Like, what would you say with your best partners? Do they have salespeople working your account, a service manager working your account? How do you find that it's the best way that let's just say you're not even NRP, you're a property manager. However, you'd be answering the same question probably the same way. How do you find the customer experience for you with a partner? What's the best? You don't have to name names, but what's the best experience you're like? How does that work?
So I would say actually one of our best experiences over all the years so I've been here for 5 years, so maybe not in the history of NRP, but this partner was a partner for a long time, still a partner. And they actually came in, and there were some issues with kind of the relationship between the partner and NRP and understanding processes, and essentially made the service manager the salesperson for the NRP account. And they were compensated accordingly, whatever that looks like, right? But what they found is all of a sudden, us, NRP, who was a difficult client, now provided a compensation, an ancillary compensation to their service manager, and became their account. And all of a sudden, the relationship over the years became really good. And I'm not saying that's something that's possible in every service department, but I would say that's been probably one of the most successful relationships that we've had, is where that service manager is actually the salesperson for NRP as well.
Love that. Super helpful. If you guys are enjoying this, go ahead and throw in the chat just how you're feeling so far. If you guys are enjoying this episode, love to hear from you. But yeah, Kyra, it's been great to connect. So I just want to kind of start to wrap this up, and we may have a question or two or time for one more if it comes in. So if you guys have one or two more questions or just comments, love to hear that. But as we wrap things up, one of the things I want to just promote here is everybody that we have on the show is somebody that Greg or I know really well, and we believe in them. They know us. We have we probably met in person at multiple dinners, trained each other's teams, or been highly referred by one or the other. And so for that, I just want to say that we are doing things in the industry. Greg's doing great things. So he's got two primary ways to help people. So one is a facilitated peer group, and Greg is I don't know how he does them. You do so many of them at such a high level. I don't get it. It's like, where are you all at once? You do an amazing job, and you still set your email replies. You're out of office so diligently. It's amazing. But what I would say is get with Greg if you would like to, as an owner, or you want to send like an upper manager, a VP, somebody very high level, be a part of a peer group. Greg has facilitated peer groups, and they're an incredible return on investment. I would highly recommend you take a look at those. So you can go to haynecoachinggroup.com. That's HAYNE coachinggroup.com. And he's also got a service course and a group coaching program called Creating Great Service. We've seen many of our customers, our clients, shared clients work with Greg's program, and just get the mindset, the energy, the customer experience teaching that he has, and the leadership buy-in on this into service, and the standards that the industry really needs that we're talking about today, like what Kyra's talking about, documentation and proactive, consultation of partnering with your clients. Greg does a great job training down in the field how to do that. So if you are interested in either of those, I would encourage you to go to haynecoachinggroup.com or just go right at creatinggreatservice.com. You can connect with Greg and hear all about how that works. And then I have something else I want to share with you.
Hang on, Ryan. Hang on, Ryan. I'll let you get to that. All right. So Ryan also has a service training program called Service Accelerator. And I would encourage anyone that wants to get good at service, not just to talk to me, but talk to Ryan's people as well, because you need to figure out what is going to be the best fit for you. And our goal and Service Accelerator's goal is the same, but the way we go about it is similar, but it's not the same. So that's number one. Number two, let's be clear. Sales Transformation Group is providing a fabulous service to our industry in helping train your salespeople. And as I have said in these before, if you are using the STG sales process and it's not working for you, you either have the wrong people doing it or you're not doing it, because it works. So I can't recommend it highly enough. And I have had people in my peer groups, I'll hear a little something. I say, well, are you going to the coaching calls? And then there's silence. Come on, man. You got to do the work. You just don't pay money and have things happen. The other thing that I wanted to share is the next Unlocking Service Growth podcast is going to be live. It's going to be in October at the STG Transform Conference, which is where Ryan was headed when I interrupted him. So Ryan, would you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so if you check out thetransformconference.com, I had the URL and it didn't quite click. We'll drop it in there in a second. But yeah, we're going to actually do our next episode live at the event, and we're going to be featuring two CEOs of that are in the NRP network, but are also one of the, I would say, one of the best branded companies in commercial roofing. Do they have problems like everybody else? Yes, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about. We're going to go right into the minds of the CEOs. So if you are coming, you're going to really, really enjoy that conference, that session of our conference. This is a really unique conference. So if you go to thetransformconference.com, we're going to be bringing a unique blend of personal, transformational, like motivational speakers. We have a couple really unique speakers coming in. One is Inky Johnson, another one's by the name of Jamie Winship. They both do incredible things. And then we're going to have, a huge focus on sales leadership, service, recruiting. If you are an owner, have an A team of executives or sales leaders and even top performing sales people, you want them to come. This is going to be a great opportunity to network with other high performers, meet Greg, of course, and spend time with him, be in our world and receive training. This is our Super Bowl at STG. This is the big annual event. We want everybody to come together, and we go big. We're not sparing any expense. It's at the Las Colinas Four Seasons in Dallas, so it's one of the nicer venues in the area, centrally located. Come in and enjoy. So it's going to be a great time. You're going to hopefully walk out feeling transformed in your business or inspired to do so, as well as personally. Hopefully, you feel some strong transformation there. We're also, if you're a residential contractor, you're welcome to come. It's not just a commercial event. This is for anybody who wants to grow. It's our tagline is the #1 event for growth-minded contractors. That's really what it's about. So I just dropped it in the link in the chat, thetransformconference.com. I actually know that NRP's some of their top salespeople will be on our commercial sales leader panel. It's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of roundtable, a lot of breakouts, a lot of big stage time networking. Some of our sponsors and partners will be there. And we're expecting somewhere between about 200 to 300 people. So it's not going to be a massive event, but it's not going to be super small. So it's going to be kind of a nice size. So we hope everybody can make it. Kyra, I'd like to ask you one more question before we hop off. What would you say if you were to give some advice? And I know you're the finance person, and you're the one keeping everybody honest and doing having all the hard conversations at your office. But what would you say to an aspiring contractor who wants to grow their business? Like, just give some advice. Like, what would you say to them right now if they had to hear whatever you had to say today that would move the needle for them? What would you tell them to do to kind of leave them with something?
I would say to sit down and look and see what you have to invest, whether it be in sales and marketing, a financial evaluation, whatever that looks like. I would definitely say just sit down, see what you have to invest, and invest back in your business. Invest in your sales team. Invest in training. Invest in those types of things, because I think they come back to you tenfold. And when your people see you investing in them, they tend to work a little harder. So
invest in yourself, invest in your people. Love that. Awesome. Greg, do you have any parting words for us?
I want to thank Kyra for making her time available today. She's a very busy lady, I know, and she quickly and immediately agreed to do this. And Ryan and I are both very appreciative of you being here today, and also appreciative of your expertise and the help that you've given. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, guys. You're always a call away when I need something. So I am happy I could return the favor sometime.
Anytime. Thank you.
Love it. Thanks, Kyra. Thanks, everybody, for hopping on. And we'll see you on the next one. And yes, we send recordings out. So before you email me and say, "What can I have a recording?" Yes, you will get a recording. And we'll send this to your friends. Thank you all.